Hello, this is Brent Massey. I'm going to share with you a vision that George Washington had back in 1777. In the winter of 1777, George Washington had a vision. The Library of Congress has a copy from 1889. It's claimed to be a work of fiction from 1861, but the prophecy rings true. I do believe this is something from George Washington, just like Enoch's dream in the Book of Enoch is from Enoch. The last time I ever saw Anthony Sherman was on the 4th of July, 1859. This is a newspaper article in Independence Square, so there's a reporter reporting this. He was then 99 years old, his dimming eyes rekindled as he gazed upon Independence Hall, which he had come to visit once more. I want to tell you an incident of Washington's life, one which no one alive knows except myself, and which if you live, you will long before see verified. He said, from the opening of the Revolution, we experienced all phases of fortune, good and ill. The darkest periods we ever had, I think, was when Washington, after several reverses, retreated to Valley Forge, where he resolved to pass the winter of 1777. I often saw the tears coursing down our dear commander's careworn cheeks as he conversed with a confidential officer about the condition of his soldiers. You have doubtless heard the story of Washington going to the thicket to pray. Well, he also used to pray to God in secret for aid and comfort. One day, I remember well, the chilly winds whistled through the leafless trees. Though the sky was cloudless and the sun shone brightly, he remained alone in his quarters nearly all afternoon. When he came out, I noticed that his face was a shade paler than usual, and there seemed to be something on his mind of more than ordinary importance. Returning just after dusk, he dispatched an orderly to the quarters of the officer I mentioned who was in attendance at the time. After preliminary conversation about a half an hour, Washington gazed upon his companion with that strange look of dignity that he alone could command, said to the latter, I do not know whether it is due to anxiety in my mind or what, but this afternoon, as I was preparing a dispatch, something seemed to disturb me. Looking up, I beheld standing opposite me a singular beautiful being. So astonished was I, for I had given strict orders not to be disturbed. That was some moments before I found language to inquire the cause of the visit. A second, a third, and even fourth time did I repeat my question, but received no answer from the mysterious visitor, except a slight raising of the eyes. By this time I felt strange sensations spreading through me, and I would have risen, but the riveted gaze of the being before me rendered volition impossible. I essayed once more to speak, but my tongue had become useless, as though it had become paralyzed. A new influence, mysterious, potent, irresistible, took possession. This symbolizes conversion and receiving the Spirit of the Lord. That's my comment. All I could do was to gaze steadily, vacantly at my unknown visitor. Gradually, the surrounding atmosphere seemed to become filled with sensations and grew luminous. Everything about me seemed rarefied, including the mysterious visitor. I began to feel as one dying, or rather to experience the sensations which I have sometimes imagined accompanied dissolution. I did not think, I did not reason, I did not move, all were alike impossible. I was only conscious of gazing fixedly, vacantly upon my companion. So this symbolizes that he, God, cleanses our sin and refines us, rarefy, the word rarefy. Then there is a dying to self. I began to feel as one dying, along with coming to the end of self, accompanying dissolution, and becoming God conscious, only conscious. Dependence, gazing fixedly on God, broken and surrendered, vacantly to him. At first my unknown visitor, and at last a friend of God, my companion. So he said at first he was his unknown visitor, but at last he was a friend of God. He was my companion. Presently I heard a voice saying, Son of Republic, look and learn. While at the same time my visitor extended an arm eastwardly, I now beheld a heavy white vapor at some distance rising fold upon fold. This gradually dissipated. This symbolizes events today or in the near future, presently, of this vision. If you live, you will before long see verified. That's what the comment was made earlier. So 1900, around, they'll start seeing these events come to pass. Over many years, at some distance, of innovation, rising fold upon fold, out of Great Britain spread, extend an arm eastwardly, these are all what they symbolize, Steam engine technology, heavy white vapor, and in the early 20th century, steam engines were replaced. This gradually dissipated by electric motors and internal combustion engines. So this is symbolizing the evolution, the rise of steam technology. And I looked upon a stranger scene. Before me lay out in the one vast plain all the countries of the world, Europe, Asia, Africa, and America. The world has never seen a stranger scene. In this case, it's symbolizing World War. In the future, before me, what lays in store lay a place of conflict, confrontation, one vast plain, spread to all the countries of the world. I saw rolling and tossing between Europe and America the billows of the Atlantic, and between Asia and America lay the Pacific. An unstable shifting situation, symbolized by rolling, without peace and tossing, divides between Europe and what follows is America in a war. Billows is war, symbol war. Also across the Atlantic and between Asia and America are future international conflicts, lay the Pacific. Son of a Republic, said the mysterious voice, as before. Look and learn. At that moment I beheld a dark, shadowy being like an angel standing, or rather floating in midair between Europe and America. So it's going to be about 1920. Between Europe and America, a return, as before, to the gold standard standing that was suspended during or after the war, or the preference for a floating currency was uncertain or up in the air. Dipping water out of the ocean in the hollow of each hand, he sprinkled some upon America with his right hand, while with his left hand he cast some on Europe. So deficit spending, which is dip water, funded by borrowing from other nations from the ocean, for industrial depression, that's hollow, and high unemployment, hand, as a result of consequent to the war upon, but is still inadequate, sprinkled to meet the need. The right hand represents a superior position, and the left hand a lesser. Outlays for troop training, weapons, and munitions increased 15-fold from 1916 to 1918. In addition, the Treasury lent generously to U.S. allies, spending quickly outpast tax revenues. And the Treasury mounted a series of war bond or Liberty loan drives to raise additional funds. The United States was the largest wartime creditor, lending a total of $7 billion. His left hand, he cast some on Europe. Immediately, a cloud raised from these countries and joined in mid-ocean. Immediately, right away, increasing instability, cloud raised from these countries, and America joined the nations mid-ocean in the middle of the economic downturn. For a while, it remained stationary and then moved slowly westward until it enveloped America in its murky folds. Economies are at a standstill, remain stationary, then getting worse in the west, move slowly westward. America's entire national economy, enveloped, is depressed and crashing in its murky folds. Sharp flashes of lightning gleamed through at intervals, and I heard the smothered groans and cries of the American people. Stock market crashes, symbolized by lightning, 1929, and the Great Depression, smothered groans and cries. A second time the angel dipped water from the ocean and sprinkled it out as before. The dark cloud was then drawn back to the ocean, in whose heaving billows it sank from view. So deficit spending, symbolized dipped water, funded by borrowing from other nations from the ocean, but is still inadequate, sprinkled. Other nations' recovery is later than America. America again, as before, sits out, drawn back, the beginning of another heaving world war, the second time billows, and the Great Depression, dark cloud, ends and is sank from view. A third time I heard the mysterious voice saying, Son of a Republic, look and learn. I cast my eyes upon America. Roosevelt won a third term, symbolized by third time, in the 1940 United States presidential election. Cast my eyes upon America. He remains the only president to serve for more than 2 terms, and beheld towns and villages springing up one after another until the whole land from the Atlantic to Pacific was dotted with them. For the United States and overseas, till the whole land from the Atlantic to Pacific, 1945 to 1964 was a time of high economic growth and prosperity springing up. Again I heard the mysterious voice say, Son of a Republic, the end of the century cometh. Look and learn. At this the dark shadowy angel turned his face southward, and from Africa I saw an ill-omened specter approaching our land. It flitted slowly over the town and city of the latter. So this is symbolizing 1960 and 1865. From the Emancipation Proclamation in 1865 to the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Acts of 1965, the end of the century cometh. So it's 100 years. Slavery from Africa is a ghost from the past, ill-omened specter that haunts, flitted slowly over to every town and city of the South. Turn his face southward. The inhabitants presently set themselves in battle array against each other. As I continued looking, I saw a bright angel, on whose brow rested a crown of light, on which was traced word Union. So at this point, people believe this was about the Civil War, but it's actually about the future. As I continued looking, I saw a bright angel on whose brow rested a crown of light, on which was traced the word Union, bearing the American flag, which he placed between the divided nations, and said, "Remember ye are brethren." Instantly the inhabitants, casting from them their weapons, became friends once more and united around the national standard. They didn't think it was about civil. They thought it was about the revolution, and this symbolizes the Civil War and the Civil Rights Movement. In a very short time, instantly, trade unions support Civil Rights Act of 1964, united around the national standard, and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, casting from them. So it's 100 years later, after the Emancipation of Proclamation, this happens. Again, I heard a mysterious voice saying, "Son of a Republic, look and learn." At this, a dark, shadowy angel placed a trumpet to his mouth and blew 3 distinct blasts. A transition, symbolized by trumpet, 40 years, from 1980 to 2020, signaled an unmistakable, distant, clear voice. 3 destructive waves, 3 blasts of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has already taken place. And the taking of water from the ocean, he sprinkled it upon Europe, Asia, and Africa. Subsequently, borrowing wealth, resources, taking water from other nations from the ocean is inadequate, sprinkled and dispersed randomly or irregularly throughout Europe, Asia, and Africa. All these countries are borrowing as a result of the whole COVID pandemic. Then my eyes beheld a fearful scene. From each of these continents arose thick black clouds that were soon joined into one. So, a terrorist incident, fearful scene in relation to oil. This is a Nord Stream pipeline attack. These regions are temperate continent in their use of petrodollar. As petroleum crude oil thick black, troublous clouds arose. These continents agree to use their own and or common currency, soon joined into one for oil transactions. So this is what we're going to see coming up. The BRICS bloc is working to develop a new BRICS currency to replace the U.S. dollar alongside local currencies between nations. So this is now the future. We're looking to the future at this point in the vision. And throughout this mass there gleamed a dark red light by which I saw hordes of armed men. Throughout the unprivileged and disadvantaged, this mass, an indication there gleamed of hidden dark anger, hatred, hostility, is exposed, revealed the light. Hostility is red, which brings about, by which I saw an extremely upset or indignant people prepared and ready, up in arms, armed men, intent on hoarding and confiscating, those are the hordes, or perhaps hidden socialist communist, which is a dark red beacon signal, leanings, by which I saw. These men, moving with the cloud, marched by land and sailed by sea to America, which country was enveloped in the volume of the cloud. It's kind of like the cloud before with the Great Depression. These men, with the fall of the petrodollar, moving along with the cloud, proceed quickly with determination and marched and enveloped the U.S. with mass transactions in volume to buy ag land, and international sailed fishing rights industry by sea. And I dimly saw these vast armies devastate the whole country and the villages, towns, and cities which I had seen springing up. The world public is vaguely aware, dimly saw, of the effect of this plunder devastated the whole country on previously prosperous American rural agriculture areas, villages, to urban cities and everything in between. My ears listened to the thundering of the cannon, clashing of swords, and the shouting cries of millions in mortal combat. A verbal battle, my ears listened, by dominating and controlling leader, thundering of cannon. Perhaps this is a Davy Crockett type of man, with a discord, hostility, strife, clashing between positions of power and authority of swords, while Americans, the bulk of the population, struggle to survive, symbolized by the shouts and cries of millions in mortal combat. I again heard the mysterious voice saying, "Son of a Republic, look and learn." Where the voices ceased, the dark, shadowy angel placed his trumpet once more to his mouth and blew a long and fearful blast. and end to the internal conflict where the voice had ceased, as another, once more, transition trumpet, signaled by a long destructive wave blast of terrorism, which symbolized and fearful, spreading blue over the country. Instantly, a light of as of a thousand suns shone down from above me and pierced and broke into fragments the dark cloud which enveloped America. Atomic nuclear energy heat, symbolized by instantly a light of a thousand suns shone down from above me, can be directly applied instantly to split hydrogen from water, broke into fragments. This new energy breaks apart the Greater Depression, not the Great Depression, but the Greater Depression, the next one, which is symbolized by a dark cloud that besieged the U.S. and enveloped America. At the same moment, the angel upon whose head still shone the word Union, and who bore our national flag in one hand and a sword in the other, descended from the heavens attended by legions of white spirits. The EU remains despite Brexit and other countries looking at following suit, leaving the EU too. Still shown the word Union, symbolized by still shown the word Union. An angel is someone or something who offers comfort and aid to others in times of trouble. That same year, at that same moment, the EU, from an indisputably higher economic standing, descended from the heavens, takes up a burden for our nation, national flag in one hand, and provides economic protection, sword in the other, and comes with and makes a deal for abundant petroleum supplies. That's to America, from America, I'm not sure which one, attended by legions of white spirits. These immediately joined the inhabitants of America, who I perceive were well nigh overcome, but who immediately taking courage again, closed up their broken ranks and renewed the battle. Terrorists escaped scrutiny immediately and enter as legal residents, join the inhabitants of America. Residents perceive them crossing borders well nigh overcome, but the nation addresses terrorism, taking courage through close scrutiny immediately of entry into the country, closed up their broken ranks, and another war on terror renewed the battle. Again, amid the fearful noise of conflict, I heard the mysterious voice saying, "Son of a Republic, look and learn." As the voice ceased, the shadowy angel for the last time dipped water from the ocean and sprinkled it upon America. As a result, consequent it upon the war on terrorism, again, inside America, amid the fearful noise of the conflict, and for the last time, deficit spending is funded by borrowing from other nations, dipped water from the ocean, but is still inadequate, sprinkled to meet the need. Instantly, the dark cloud rolled back, together with the armies it had brought, leaving the inhabitants of the land victorious. In a very short time, instantly, the Greater Depression ends with the return of the previous level of prices and wages rolled back. The land grab was over, armies it had brought, as well as the economic depression, leaving the inhabitants of the land victorious. Then once more I beheld the villages, towns, and cities springing up where I had seen them before, while the bright angel, planting his azure standard he had brought in the midst of them, cried with a loud voice, "While the stars remaining and the heavens send down dew upon the earth, so shall the Union last. America, the Union, will last so long while states, the stars, don't secede and government higher-ups, the heaven, temporal spending relief, doesn't evaporate, send down dew." And taking from his brow the crown on which blazoned the word Union, he placed upon the standard, while the people kneeling down said Amen. The EU flag has a circle of 12, a symbol of completeness and unity, stars that look like a crown. As a result, taking it of an EU summit meeting, on which blazoned the word Union, summit meeting his brow, the U.S. is officially granted candidate status. He placed it upon the standard, and by popular vote, the U.S. becomes part of the EU, the European Union, while the people kneeling down said Amen. So John Paul Jackson also had a dream of a newspaper headline that says, "Loss of identity, the cost to belong to the new Euro community. There will be more countries than today using the Euro and part of the EU new Euro community." Now, Washington's vision continues. The scene instantly began to fade and dissolve, and I at last saw nothing but the rising curling vapor I first beheld. This also disappeared. The stage period of history seen, fracked oil wells decay rapidly, instantly began to fade. In a new advanced reactor technologies like molten salt reactors, MSR fissile materials can be dissolved directly into primary coolant so that the fission directly heats the salt. The system can also be used for electricity or hydrogen production. And all that is left, at last saw nothing, is a rising demand for hydrogen coil, fuel cell energy, curling vapor, perhaps in combination with steam, as I first beheld. This also isn't a viable energy resource, as platinum palladium reserves disappeared. And I found myself once more gazing upon the mysterious visitor. But the interesting thing about this, it begins with energy and ends with energy. That's the kind of the context of this vision. A renewed dependence on God instead of dependence on energy, like in the beginning of the vision. Who, in the same voice I heard before, said, Son of Republic, what you have seen is thus interpreted. Humbly receive grace and revelation. What you have seen is thus interpreted. At that time said, I praise you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth. Yet you have hidden these things from the wise and intelligent, revealed them to infants. So he's revealing this. 3 perils will come upon the Republic. The most fearful for her is the third. But the whole world will unite. United shall not prevail against her. 3 great perils. So you got World War I, World War II, and a third World War, which will be the most terrorism America's ever experiences. The most fearful is her third. Let every child of the Republic learn to live for his God, his land, and union. The American collective system of government, child of the Republic, started with the Roman Republic when they were to cast off their monarch. In the end, Rome was torn apart by inflation, printing money, deficit spending, and tribalism. Let every democratic nation, every child, learn to live for his God instead of false patriotism. His land, not self-serving, for example, spending away children's futures with government debt, and union, not tribalism. With these words, the vision vanished, and I started from my seat and felt that I had seen a vision wherein it had been shown me the birth and progress and destiny of the United States. He had this vision in the winter of 1777, a time when the Continental Army's paper currency was greatly devalued in comparison to British currency. Also during the Revolution, several European allies gave American military aid and support. 1000 is the end of one phase, symbolic of the end of one phase, the birth. Symbolized by him saying the birth. That began with the independence from Great Britain and the commencement of another as a member of the EU. The destiny, that is at this time, does not include Great Britain at this time. He heard the mysterious voice saying, Son of the Republic, look and learn 7 times. We survived the American Revolution. This history starts in 1885. Since then, we have been given 7 seasons to examine ourselves and learn from our mistakes. Look and learn. 7 is a number of completion. 777, which is in 1777, is a completion, the progress of 3 great perils. That is my interpretation of George Washington's vision from 1777 that was in the Library of Congress in the 1800s, late 1800s. Thanks for listening.